Do you guys know how much money you actually make as a freelancer? Well, in this video, I'm gonna go ahead and try to break down the concept in the most simplest term. So let's go ahead and lock in, learn, get some value, and let's quickly jump into it. All right, let's look at what a profit is. It's the amount earned minus the amount spent, like I just said. So in this case, again, guys, I'm just gonna be very honest, maybe you're a bit overwhelmed now because you're seeing numbers and you hate maths. But just rest assured, I'm saying this as a joke. I myself am an Asian, and there's a stereotype saying Asians are really good at maths. But I'll just be very honest. In high school, I literally was in general maths, which is the lowest form of mathematics. Like, it was so low. Then you have like standard maths, then advanced maths, then extension 1, extension 2. I was at the lowest, and I'm an Asian. So keep that in mind. You need to understand numbers if you want to be decent or good at accounting and finance. Because if you don't like numbers, at the end of the day, how are you going to operate a business if you don't even care about numbers? You know? And if you don't, it's okay. But this is really good knowledge to pass on. So again, for those people who are really overwhelmed with maths, just bear with me, please. I've kept it super simple. You don't have to remember anything of this. You just have to understand the premise. Okay, in fact, I'm so bad at maths, I literally had to fix these numbers. So I refreshed the screen. The numbers may have been slightly different. Like this, for example, this was like 600. So I had to change it. That's how bad my maths is. But just bear with me. So in this example, the lemonade, if they sell each lemonade for 25 cents, and let's say the person sold 1,285, that equals $321.25. And let's say they got tipped $55.25. So in total, this person made $376.50 in the year 2024, right? Now we look at how much he spent in running this business. Perhaps he spilled some lemonade, so he spilled some stocks, and he lost $80.25. And again, these are all just example numbers. And then the lemon cost. To buy those lemons, it cost $110. The cost of materials and building that store cost $225. And he had to pay some sort of permit for that specific store. Let's say, for example, for the local council fees, that's $25. Then let's just say, for example, he had some staff to help him out on some sick days. That was $85. And then he had to pay taxes, which is $70. So obviously these are just made up numbers, but that equals a negative $595.25. So if we take a look at what he earned and the amount of money he spent, he actually made a loss of $218.75. So obviously I put this example as a loss, and I just want to tell you why. A couple of reasons. Sometimes on the left-hand side, people who don't understand financing, and you may hear all these people in YouTube or your social media platforms, they say stuff like, yeah, I made $1 million, or I generated $5 billion in revenue, or something like that. You know what I mean? But they didn't even consider the loss, the spend. How much did they actually spend after taxes, after paying your staff? How much did you really receive? And I'll just do an extra bonus, which I highlighted in the bottom right in orange. What about their lifestyle expenses? And I can't believe I'm telling these guys, but just consider this. Let's say this famous under the sun influencer claims on social media that they made 1 million USD in 1 month, right? But this 1 million USD in reality, like just an example, perhaps they had to pay their agency, their management team, right? So maybe that equals $500,000. And then they had to pay tax to the government. So maybe it's only $200,000. $200,000 is still a lot, right? Depending on how we see it, but it's definitely a lot. And then let's just say, for example, their lifestyle. They spent $100,000 on rent for their house. They spent another $50,000 on a car. Maybe they spent, $40,000 gambling. And then at the end of the day, they only have $10,000. That's really what they actually made, because the rest is just expenses. But they claim to make $1 million, but in reality, they're $10,000. Or maybe even in reality, they're negative money. You know what I mean? So that's why, in the previous pillar, marketing is very deceptive in my opinion. But these are the type of things we need to start considering and start being careful for. I put an analogy of this lemonade stand. You can see how, in this case, it's probably not a good idea to engage in this business because they lost $218.75. Of course, as I just mentioned in the previous slide, perhaps this is the goal of this business, is to just market themselves, and they predicted a loss in the first year. But in the second year, because they acquired all these customers, they're going to start, generating more revenue. Perhaps. These are things we need to think of as a business person. And these are just examples. But what happens in a loss? Perhaps they need to raise their price next year. Instead of selling lemonade at 25 cents, which is not going to generate any profit, you might have to double or triple that. Perhaps you can provide less lemonade per serving. Perhaps 1 lemon equals 1 lemonade. We can use half a lemon. You know what I mean? This is almost like shrinkflation, right? And that will save costing in the lemon cost without raising the price of the lemonade, which your customers are used to. because if you raise the price, maybe your customers wouldn't want it, you know? Perhaps you can use more techniques not to spill lemonade, so you can increase the efficiency of your production, you know, because you can see the spilled lemonade costs $80.25, you know? Perhaps you can purchase a machine for $10 to avoid that, you know? Perhaps it's a staffing issue. Maybe like you paid too much on your staff, or you hired the wrong staff and they just slacked off in their job and they did you a disservice. Perhaps you can expand your business by doing a delivery service, you know? Maybe all these people are too lazy to go to your neighborhood to buy the lemonade physically, so you can offer, you know, a delivery service. And if you do that, you could start calculating the delivery cost, how much is the delivery fee, etc. And again, like I mentioned, perhaps the first year this guy was an ultimate business mastermind and he predicted the loss in the first year, but he got something in the end. Like maybe he got the customer database, or maybe he's predicting a gain in the second year. And lastly, as I mentioned, lifestyle expenses. So this goes beyond business. It just shows you, especially if you're a solo freelancer, no matter how much money you made in the top end, after the taxes, after the fees, etc., that's your bottom line profit. Then after that, you know, what is your lifestyle? Consider that. And I'm just being extra nice to start letting you know about this, because I don't think people will talk about this. There you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and found tons of value. If you did, please leave a comment and a like. Really helps me out a lot. This specific video and topic was actually a part of my business/freelance course where I cover 5 different modules. This specific video was talking about the module accounting and finance. I actually go even more in detail in my course, talking about things like how much to charge, how to pay taxes, pricing objections, and so much more. So if you do have the time, feel free to check it out in the description. Otherwise, I'm planning to keep uploading free YouTube videos to provide more value. So check out more of my videos right here also. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.